And we're start. Hello, Mary. Okay, I don't want to, I lived in Italy for 10 years. So I don't want to mispronounce your last name. Mazzio. Is that correct?
Close enough.
All right.
Mazzio,
Is this, how do you call this? Is this your last name or from your husband?
No, this is my name.
All right. You are half Italian or Italian full and full?
Half Italian, half Irish.
Okay, that's a good combination.
Well, yeah, I come from my Italian side. I come from how do I say this? Peasants and some low-level crime. And
Okay, I'm gonna kind of like, are you somewhere in the south? In Palermo, Catania, something like that?
Sicilian. Say no more.
All right, I'm okay. All right, zip it. All right. But I lived in Bologna, so that's 10 years of my life over there. But yeah. But this is, you have a very intriguing, okay, it's Mary Mazzio. You are a rower. Uh, I don't know if it's that a profession or it's a hobby, but you're an Olympian. And then
Exactly.
you're a freaking lawyer. How in the world did that go? Now you're a freaking filmmaker. I cannot say the F word, but that's how it is. That's a good combination. I mean, how did that combination come about?
I think honestly, like I really lucked into what I'm doing now. And in many ways feel like it's a calling, right?
Right.
That somebody like me gets to be invited into these communities
Mhm.
where there are extraordinary stories, but they're underrepresented.
Correct.
Voices that are underrepresented. And to be invited in, to be able to use my skills to amplify those voices, like honestly, what a learning experience and journey has it been for me. And especially a most beautiful thing. I mean, working with Arshay Cooper on a project like this, right? About the first African-American rowing team from the west side of Chicago, to be able to investigate the deeply entrenched structural impediments to success, racist policies that have for hundreds of years, right? Plagued our citizens that have only had the misfortune of birth, right? To be outside of the bubble of privilege. And what we're seeing with the film is that those that do in the world, those that who live in the world of privilege, there is no more privileged sport than rowing. Okay, polo, maybe. Right? That there is a great embracing of Arshay and his message. And that has been honestly so exciting to be part of a project that is so, has such forward momentum.
And let us put it out there also to our audience who's going to see it, this interview. Let us be reminded that Arshay came from a high school in the south side of Chicago, west south side of Chicago, that is supposedly one of the most dangerous area in Chicago.
West side of Chicago, right. He came from the west side of Chicago. And from seeing the film, extraordinary challenges facing young people, whether it's the west side of Chicago, Harlem, Compton, right? That young people that are born into these neighborhoods that are profoundly unequal, undemocratic in terms of basic safety, right? There is a subset of our population that grows up in a safe environment, and a huge population of American citizens that grow up in unsafe conditions. And how has that persisted for so long?
Right. And I mean, I like it that you mentioned having voices. You're like a voice to them, because I wrote in, like, one of the things that I wrote, reading your bio and the little director's statement that you have is like, I scribbled it like, you have so many projects, and when I've seen your filmology, it's most of like you're telling a story. Most of them are disadvantaged stories, and you're trying to there's that, I don't want to be how do you call this, stereotyping you as that one, but at
I
least
love it. I love it. Here's what I would say. Instead of disadvantaged stories, they're underrepresented. They're
underrepresented. Correct. Correct.
voices that have not seen the light of day, that I'm not telling the story. What I'm really doing is equipping these young people or whomever it is, right,
Right.
to tell their own story. And I'm like creating the stage, the
Right.
risers, the amplifiers, right, the sound system, so that their voices reach a wider audience. And how exciting is it to be able to do that, right? Like, honestly, as a filmmaker, what I really try and do, and sometimes it's hard, it is not my story. It's not about me. It's not my version of what the story I think should be told. It is, here's the story in someone's own voice, own words, completely authentic, and I try and get the F out of the way.
That's it. Okay. Oh, let's go to the project that you did. You did this. You filmed this last year,
Yes.
2020, 2019, during the COVID.
So we filmed it right before COVID. We filmed in 2019,
Okay.
right? COVID hit in March of 2020.
Okay.
We finished the film in March of 2020.
Just before
Um,
everything hit.
Yeah, we were supposed to debut at South by Southwest, right?
Mm.
Prestigious opportunity. There was a lot of buzz behind the film, and then COVID hit, and we were like, what do we do?
Right.
And we were going to open with our longtime partners at AMC, largest theater chain in North America. And AMC was going to open, and then they had to remain shut because of COVID, and we kept pivoting the date.
Right.
So March became June, June became July, July became end of July. And it became clear that theaters were not going to open. And after the murder of George Floyd, Arshay called me. He said, Mary, the time is now. And he was absolutely right. We were not going to wait. We were not going to come out in 2021. We were going to come out in the middle of COVID, because what Arshay had to say was that important. And what we found was the message was so resonant. I mean, I think the film is still trending on Amazon. It's still trending. It's still trending on Peacock. And I think his message, his story, is at the right time. It always would have been the right time, but particularly with this awakening of a larger public in terms of the structural inequities our citizens of color face in this country, I think his message is more important than ever. And honestly, I'm just lucky to be along for the ride. That's how I feel.
As a filmmaker, Mary, I read how you found Arshay and the book, and and
or he me, or he me,
or yeah, or let's say, and the phone call, and the phone call that came after it. What is it in you, or what? I guess, like, for me to get an interview, I would find people like, this has something, there's a story to tell, that it was not just a celebrity interview or whatever. But for you as a filmmaker, was it hard for you to kind of like convince or to jump into the project? Because of course it was his book, and you have to have risk. I don't know. I guess I've also worked with a lot of independent filmmakers that says, like, the most of the problem that comes is usually money and convincing people. And I know you were back by this project with, other than Common, you have those basketball greats that came aboard with it. So was it difficult for a filmmaker to kind of like throw the project in?
You know what? It's always difficult. You always have to go raise money. But I have a group of loyal supporters that have been so thoughtful and so generous over the years with several of our projects, largely because we really focus on social impact. Our last film created bipartisan change in Congress. Like, in a gridlocked Congress,
Right, right.
unbelievable benchmark in terms of impact. Our film before that raised $100 million with the White House, and that was about immigration issues.
Mhm.
And that film was embraced by both the left and the right, right? So I think what we try and do in our projects is there a point of common ground where the left and the right can come together to work on an issue to improve the lives of others? Because as you can see in this country, you can see it right today.
Right now, yeah.
The partisanship, the tearing of our social fabric is so great. It is incumbent upon us to come together.
Again.
It is the only way we're going to move forward. It's the only way we're going to serve our country in the way that it needs to be served. And it's the only way we're going to remedy the social inequities that have existed and plagued this country for hundreds of years. And so for me, to be able to dig into a project when Arshay said, hey, would you ever want to do this?
Right.
It's the sport that I love. And it is a group of young men who have been, many of them have been affiliated with gangs. Why is that? Who are their mothers? What is the story, right? And for these young men and their mothers to really unveil their souls and their stories, what a beautiful, magical thing that has given light, right? And you understand by the end of the movie that citizens in the West Side or Harlem or Compton, talent is everywhere.
Right.
Talent is equally distributed. It is access and opportunity that is not, right? And therein lies that the haves and the have-nots, those with privilege and those without privilege.
I think one of the key things that I think I found in the film that's very striking, and it humanized them, that they were not just overcoming I don't want to be negative, but overcoming an obstacle or a challenge. It's because having this group of mothers, like what you said, people that back them and humanize them and told their story from their side, because you don't really see this most of the time.
And Grant Hill said to me, he said, Mary, there are so few positive stories, especially of Black men,
Right,
especially of adult Black men.
Right.
And we didn't humanize them. They were fully human. And so we just simply film them, right? And I subscribe to the school that every human has a beautiful story. And, and these young men, when you understand the topography that they face, the decisions they had to make at age 8, 9, and 10, they cannot move off the block safely unless they affiliate. That is not an active choice. That is, how does a young person survive? And you're making young people make these decisions at such a young age, right? So the trauma that is attendant to that, the neglect that we have, and I say the greater we, those in privilege, have allowed to happen, we are, it's frankly un-American and it's undemocratic at the end of the day.
Right. Now, I know that you had a moment, well, not necessarily a moment, but a collaboration with the Chicago Police Department. That was an interesting take. And I said, like, I wonder which came first, the Chicago Police Department having a rowing team, because I tried to Google them. I tried to see a Twitter page or whatever, trying to find out if there was an existing already, and or did you give them a chance, like, because that's a unifying way to make this two separate group of people coming together.
This was Planet Arshay Cooper. Everywhere that Arshay goes, the most unusual people who have no business coming together come together. He is a force of nature. And he called me after some really acutely sensitive interviews with the mothers. And of course, we were talking about not only gun violence and gang affiliation, but police brutality and their fear for their sons. And Arshay said to me, he's like, Mary, I've been thinking of inviting the Chicago PD into our world. They need to know our names.
That's true.
That was his motivation.
That's true.
And And after he did this, of course, he was like, oh boy, I might face backlash. And I said, Arshay, you extended largesse, you extended a generosity of spirit. You weren't saying, hey, I forgive you. You were
Right.
saying, come learn our name. We're going to teach you how to do something. You're going to see another side of this. And, you know, Arshay has told me often and often and often that these cops have never seen a different side of these young men, that Malcolm
Exactly.
calls his son every 15 minutes, right?
Right.
That Preston is so excited that his daughter loves the sport that he does, right? So this idea of fatherhood, of love, of a complex personality. And I think, I mean, credit to Arshay Cooper. What a leader he is. And as he says in the film, you know, one cop at a time,
One cop at a time, and one
right?
city at a time from that
One city at
point.
a time.
Now, after the movie, I know with COVID hitting everywhere right now, um, is the movie going to be other than Netflix? I know it limited as far as showing or premiering in a physical venue.
Great question. So we right now we're on Peacock,
Mhm.
Peacock and NBC, right? The new NBC streaming platform,
Right,
where the film I believe is still free of charge.
right,
We also are on Amazon Prime, and
right,
Amazon is going to be producing a Most Beautiful Thing soundtrack in 2021. Very exciting. In terms of physical events, we are doing them. Just last month, Pepsi and the Miami Dolphins hosted a Most Beautiful Thing weekend where it was a socially distant outdoor screening. And there was a 1,000 meal giveaway to
wow,
families experiencing food insecurity. Like, what an amazing event to
right,
be part of, to be sort of like embraced around our movie. And so we are seeing some physical events, primarily outdoor screenings where you can safely socially distance. For right now, we're doing lots of private, you know, whether it's Zoom conversations or internal conversations. We do see a lot of demand for external screenings post COVID.
right,
You know, we're engaging with the Obama Foundation. How do we get those kids on the water, right? So there's going to be
right.
an access to the water part of this down the line. But I think, you know, COVID has really been so disruptive and destabilizing in so many ways. Um, and I think, you know, we're still in the thick of it, and we need to be very, very careful about any external events. We cannot put people in harm's way and can't be responsible for putting people in harm's way, right? So we are not doing any sort of indoor screening at this time.
Mhm.
Well, COVID is, you know, skyrocketing.
Right.
But once the vaccination hits, you know, hopefully you will see lots more Arshay. And also, I will tell you that we've had a lot of Hollywood interest ever since the Hollywood Reporter
Right.
reviewed the movie. Oh, and so we should be able to announce, I'd say, you know, 4 or 5 weeks, there's going to be more Arshay Cooper coming at you in a feature, you know, scripted format.
Right.
So very, very exciting.
Okay. I guess my last question or my final thing is like, what did Mary Mazzio take away from this?
You know what, Amy, that's a great question. Here's what I took away. I am a person who, by virtue of my skin, I come from privilege. I did not come from money. I came from some very challenging circumstance, but I did not pull myself up by the bootstraps. I was handed a lifeline by so many people around me where I could go to college, I could go to law school, I could become a productive member of society. Lifelines and gifts, both big and small, that I know I would not have received if my skin color had been different. And working on this project has reminded me of the extraordinary privilege that I enjoy and have always enjoyed, and how much more I need to do, because with that kind of privilege comes great responsibility. I was lucky to get the breaks that I had. And this idea of the American dream where you pull yourself up, that's
Right.
not how it works. It's somebody sticks a hand down, and lifts you up. And guess what? I had lots of people lifting me up. And I know that would not have happened if I were a person of color.
Well, thank you so much for your time, my dear. I know we've been trying to do this for a long. I am so happy that we did it again.
Thank you for
Uh,
having me. You probably heard the dog in the background and the little
I did not.
squirrels
It's
and
fine. It was good, but I wish you luck, and I hope you guys come to Hawaii and do a premiere of it here.
we would love to. Let's get the mayor involved, Amy. Like, let's do this.
Right, and we have a very good, well, my daughter, it's not more the rowing, but she was into kayaking before.
Great.
Big COVID kind of like take that down too, but I know that we have a lot of those here, and I hope you guys, I like the story, and I've been talking about it so much, and I think it's important given the circumstances or the situations or what we see for the last couple of months. We need a feel good movie, and this is one of those that you can take something away and feel good about, that there's something good in humanity still.
And not only that, but I feel like it's a positive roadmap that our
Right,
show lays out for forward momentum.
right,
How do we come together? How do we overcome our differences, right? So
right.
that we can create a better, more equal situation. And again, I feel so lucky that he has taken me along on this journey and this ride. And how privileged am I, and humbled, right?
Right.
That he called me and said, would you do
Would
this?
you? Yeah, that was
And,
interesting.
and as Arshay will tell me, he's like, Mary, I was tweeting to Will Smith. I was tweeting to Brad Pitt. I was tweeting to Clooney, to Ava. He's like, you're the only one that picked up the phone and took my call. And you know what? Sometimes you answer the call,
Right.
and where does it take you? You don't often know. But in this place, it took me to a most beautiful place.
Well, that's so good to hear. And it's still available in Netflix. I just saw it.
Amazon.
Uh, and
Amazon.
Amazon too, I rather.
Yep,
And
Amazon
then
and Peacock. And then we're working on our international plan, but later it will be on, much more widely available in terms of iTunes and Vudu, and right. But for now, we are thrilled with our partnership with NBC Universal,
mhm.
Comcast, and Peacock, and then of course our friends at Amazon.
Well, thank you so much. You have a good week.
Thank you,
And
Amy, and yeah, keep the faith, and we'll talk soon. And thank you so much for taking the time.
no, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Soon. Bye bye.
Bye.